Welcome to the Spartan Sports Podcast. My name is Thomas Chavez, and today I am joined by
Alex Mayer,
Carter Fry,
Tyler Castillo,
and Zachary Lockerman.
All right, boys. How are we doing on this fine Thursday afternoon?
Listen, better than I deserve. That's what I like to say.
Today is a great day to be a Bulls fan, so let's get excited about that.
A little bit of
bias
bias
to be an NBA fan.
A little bit of bias coming from the stands, but it's all good.
I'm Sean. It's a good day. It's a good sports day. It's a good sports talk day.
Yep. Weather was all right earlier. It's all good. Nothing too serious.
All right. Let's get into the nitty gritty. As we all know, today was the NBA trade deadline. As of 3:00, all trades are off now. Everything is final. There have been a lot of huge trades. Alex, let's start with you. What is a trade that you want to talk about today?
Yeah, so I guess you could say this is a little under the radar trade. Obviously, Aaron Gordon was dealt, Evan Fournier, among others. But I want to talk about Norman Powell going to the Portland Trail Blazers in exchange for Gary Trent and Rodney Hood. I think Portland, they were in a bidding war with Boston and Denver for Aaron Gordon. You know, they have a good scoring punch, obviously, as we know, in Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. And they wanted a sort of a wing guy that could really lock down on defense for them. And that was Aaron Gordon. Unfortunately, the Denver Nuggets gave up a lot of assets for him. And, you know, it's crazy to think about because, you know, when you think about Aaron Gordon, you don't really think of a superstar that you have to give up a lot of assets to get. But that's what Denver did. But instead, they settled for Norman Powell, which is a pretty good alternative, if I might say so myself. 19.6 points per game is, I believe, a career high for him. He's been dropping like 30-point games all over the place. Norman Powell is scoring at an elite level right now, and not a lot of people are talking about it because the Toronto Raptors are having a pretty disappointing season, 1-9 in their last 10 games. You know, Powell, the scoring threat, he doesn't really facilitate all that much, doesn't really crash the boards, but 43% from three-point range, that is just makes the Portland Trail Blazers really scary with Lillard, McCollum, and Norman Powell. That is a trio right there when you're talking about shooters.
Obviously, Tyler would want you to say it's a quartet because Carmelo Anthony is also on the Blazers.
Hey,
but
he drops like a sneaky like 15 a game. Like it's whatever. He's nothing special, but
he contributes. He's not riding the bench or anything. Yeah.
It's fair, but
so look out for Portland. I think they're in the sixth seed right now. I see them not being a play-in team. I see them being in that 4, 5, 6 seed range. As for how deep in the playoffs they'll go with this trade, I'm not so sure, but they definitely got a good upgrade here with Norman Powell.
Yeah, with Gary Trent going back to the Raptors, I think that's a really intriguing thing to talk about because with CJ McCollum's injury, Gary Trent was able to step in and show what he can do offensively, and he showed that he could be a 20-point scorer for a team. And with the Raptors now looking like they're going to start, at the very least, rebooting their team, not necessarily going full rebuild, but starting to get new assets, different players to bring in, I think that having a player like that's going to be very valuable, whether or not he maybe takes the next step or maybe you just use him as a trade piece later on. But Gary Trent's had a quietly really good year this season. So that's definitely a piece to be intrigued by for Toronto.
Yeah, in Toronto, they got their core of Van Vliet, Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam. If they can just add some more wings like that, which they did today, I definitely think that Raptors will be more scary than they're looking right now.
Obviously, with the Raptors, they didn't end up trading Kyle Lowry, even though they were predicted to. I guess the Heat really like Tyler Hero a little bit too much. I mean, he had a really good playoffs, but this year he's been struggling. So
shooting 25% from behind the 3-point line, which is not good. Not good.
He's young.
Yeah, but there's such a steep drop off since the bubble. Like, what's going on with that?
I don't know. It might be something with the Heat's rims. Jimmy Butler is also averaging or shooting like 20-something% from three. Which
but I mean, he's Jimmy Butler. He's not strapping from three.
Yeah,
right now. Here was supposed to be a good spot up shooter.
From
and
what
he
they were
obviously
saying last
top
year
up.
was like the bubble was also like prime conditions for shooters, because
Yeah,
of depth perception and all
the
that. And
sight
now,
lines, yeah.
and now these players are in stadiums with like no fans. So I mean, like you got to realize that like they have all that emptiness, but like so that could be impacting him also, or maybe he's just having a skid. Who knows? But I mean, if you like him that much, and it seems like the fans like him, and he fits in there. I mean, don't send him away too early. Might regret it.
Sophomore slumps are a real thing. So.
Unless you're Luka Doncic.
Rocket
Luka
Watts.
Doncic. Yeah, Rocket Watts. Yeah.
Well, and with Lowry being a free agent this year, I just think teams weren't willing to give up, what the Raptors were asking, just for a couple month rental. I think
That's true.
I think the Lakers might have benefited if they really wanted to make a run at a title this year, but I guess they decided the price was too steep.
And also Lowry's no spring chicken anymore. The guy's like 34 years old. I mean, dude, he's getting up
35
there.
today.
Yeah, 30. So 35 years old. He's not exactly he doesn't have a membership to Planet Fitness. I mean, the guy.
You're right. He has a way better equipment and
he might
stuff to work with.
The
Toronto.
average
You're
NBA
right.
gym might be a little bit more.
I'm just saying.
A tiny bit.
I'm just saying he's not like a workout warrior who you could see playing like much longer probably than he is now. Why give up a whole bunch if you probably are going to lose him, and it's not like he's in his prime.
Exactly.
Anymore, anyway.
If you want to pursue Lowry, wait until the end of the year when he's a free agent, and then pursue him. Yeah.
Because I don't see him signing a contract with the Sixers if the Sixers end up trading for him. I just don't.
No. Yeah.
I don't even see why the Sixers would have traded for him in the first place. He's just like, Ben Simmons is there, and he's basically playing Lowry's role as being that pesky defender, as well as the playmaker, as well as the / point guard facilitator. Yeah, he plays that same kind of role. So
plus Ben Simmons is 6'10" and
Ben Simmons should not be playing point guard.
And he's like a DPOY.
If you can't
candidate.
shoot, you really shouldn't be playing point guard.
He should play power forward, and he should just be like the point forward. He should play point guard like LeBron plays point guard when he's at the three still. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like that in a sense.
But only one LeBron.
Well, he's no LeBron. I wasn't trying to compare the two. I was just saying like the way that LeBron can be a primary ball handler is the way Simmons could be one as well, just at a different position other than point guard.
Did you guys see how Lowry in his post-game presser last night got a FaceTime from Drake?
Yeah,
right in the middle of it.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I mean,
everyone thought he was gone. So
why was he crying? Like, did he think he was gone?
Everyone thought he was going to be traded. He thought he was going to be traded.
An hour before the dedeadline, apparently he was getting calls that he was about to be traded, and then all the teams that were interested, backed off.
Champagne Poppy stepped in. He said no, it's not happening, and so they had to cancel everything. I mean, that's how it probably went down.
Yeah. It was all up to Drake.
Listen,
Drake went to Toronto's front office and was like, "You're not trading Kyle."
Champagne Poppy has pull in that city. He has pull in that city. I mean, what do you expect?
You're right. He does.
That's what Drake was calling about in the FaceTime. He's like, "Yo, I just got off the phone with Masa Ujiri. He's not trading you. You're all good.
You're staying.
Listen, he's running through the six with Kyle Lowry. So I mean, so I think he's not going anywhere.
Alrighty.
That's funny.
Well, Carter, I know you're very excited about something.
I am. Today, the Bulls just made their leap into playoff contention. They've been in playoff contention this whole season, but the addition of a 25 points per game scorer, all-star, Orlando Magic legend, Nikola Vucevic, is absolutely amazing for this team. We got rid of Otto Porter's contract, who was making $28 million a year. I remember when we brought that on, trading for Jabari Parker just a few years ago, and I was not happy with that. So we dumped that.
More impressive than actually getting Vucevic is getting rid of that contract. $28 million.
No, that's. I'm honestly just as happy about that as getting Vucevic, who is cheaper, by the way. And we're also getting a decent forward in Al-Farouq Aminu. So that's
defender.
good.
Yeah.
Good defender. I think he will be great coming off the bench alongside Kobe, Denzel, Thaddeus Young, and another addition we got today, Daniel Tice, who apparently after he missed the game-winning shot the other night for the Celtics were like, okay, bye. All the fans were attacking him on Twitter. So apparently that led him to leave. But another deal the Bulls were involved in today was potentially one with Lonzo Ball. There was talk about Markkanen being traded for Ball, but then came out that the Pelicans didn't want to trade away Lonzo. So we're stuck with Markkanen for at least another year. I'm not, too upset about that as some other Bulls fans were, but it'll be interesting to see how two, pick and pop stretch 4-5s, and Markkanen and Vucevic will play alongside each other. Will, the Bulls move him to the bench? That remains to be seen. But as it looks right now, the Bulls are going to start Thomas Satoransky, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, Lauri Markkanen, and Nikola Vucevic, which I think is definitely at least a 7 or 8 seed starting 5 in the East. Then you got Kobe, Denzel, Aminu, Thaddeus Young, who's having a ridiculous season, and Daniel Tice coming off the bench. I mean, on top of that, you got Garrett Temple. You have Ryan Arcidiacono, who's not a bad piece. The Bulls, they got Vucevic into their starting lineup, but they really improved upon their bench and switched out a lot of guys. And we also added Troy Brown from the Wizards, who I think is, he's having definitely a down year right now with them, but definitely has shown that he has the talent to be a decent bench piece. So the way I look at it, the Bulls are definitely on the up, and all of Chicago is partying today.
Wow. When I told you I wanted a full breakdown of the Bulls, I did not expect you to go that far.
Listen, I'm just more surprised than anything that the Chicago Bulls now have the whitest roster in the NBA. So listen.
Oh my God.
Big props.
Oh man.
Carter, I got a couple questions for you.
Yes.
One is, do you see the Vucevic trade really getting you guys like above that play-in spot 7 through 10? Because I don't. I see the top 5. Well, maybe I can see the Hornets falling off, but I don't see you guys being any better than the Knicks. The Hawks are playing out of their minds right now.
They are.
The Celtics are a burning ship. So I want to hear your take as to how much better does this make this Bulls team? And also something that's a little under the radar with these trades is the trading away of Daniel Gadford. Is that his name?
Oh yes, yeah. I completely forgot about that. So the guys we traded away for Mo Wagner, who the Bulls turned Mo Wagner into Daniel Tice today. In the trade for Troy Brown, we gave away Daniel Gafford, who a lot of Chicago Bulls fans seem to have an attachment to. I never really saw it. He's an undisciplined, athletic, big guy who can't really shoot. I think that Tice is an upgrade over him, in my opinion. The Bulls, they're the 10th seed right now, and they're only 2.5 games out of 5th in the East.
Let me just, I want to add something to that too, Carter, about, I'm not a huge Bulls fan. I haven't really been paying a lot of attention to them, but with that acquisition of Vucevic and, like you said, Markkanen, they can both, they're stretch bigs. I think you guys are going to be able to stretch the floor so much, which is going to create a lot of mismatches I don't know how consistent Markkanen has been, but even if he can knock down a couple of shots to make just even extend the floor a little bit, I think you guys can definitely make a push. Like you said, you got a deep roster. The East is all over the place this year. So it's it's always hard to tell who can end up in what seed in the East, because like you said, they're in 10th, but they're 2.5 games out of the 5th seed.
Right.
It's really weird. I think you guys can make a push. We'll see. I mean, you guys got your all-stars and Vucevic and, LaVine, and then you got a deep roster. And you guys made a lot of big moves today, I feel like. So we'll see. It'll be interesting. Maybe Chicago can finally come back and, the Bulls can be relevant a little bit at least.
Yep. And the other thing with stretching the floor is we have one of the best rim attackers in the league in LaVine, which opens up the lane for him. So that is going to be huge for us to have all 5 guys who can shoot. I think being 2.5 games out, the Bulls have been actually winning a lot of games through 3 quarters lately. They almost beat the Nuggets the other night. They had 2 straight games where they were up 13 and 14 points in the 4th quarter and blew both of those leads. So I definitely think there was a more, not enough veteran presence on the team up until now. And I think the addition of Vucevic will, help them close out games.
As far as the Orlando side goes, now Wendell Carter is going to be their starting center, and that also pretty much boots out Mo Bamba. I think objectively speaking, Wendell Carter, while he's not particularly great, is a better player than Mo Bamba, and has shown that. And the Magic have had a fire sale today. They're fading for Cade, it looks like. So yeah, they're going full tank now. And when you look at the Vucevic trade, especially, it looks like, Jonathan Isaac might be out some games next year, which would have made next year a wash. So really, I think he'd have 1 year after that on his contract. So really, there's no point in keeping him, especially when another key piece that helps you win is going to be out. But as far as the Bulls go, also, this certainly seems like a move to make sure that Levine stays and doesn't leave in free agency, obviously. But it also kind of restricts the Bulls in terms of how their team is built going forward, because this roster is certainly good enough to make the playoffs, but the playoffs aren't the end goal, obviously. Does this roster have, like, what next step would they have to make in order to make it to a championship level team?
I don't know. And that's the beauty of having Arturas Karstinovis as our general manager. No one had any idea that the Bulls were in the running today for the Magic or for acquiring Vucevic from the Magic. So he seems to be keeping things under wraps. And if I've learned anything from Jerry West over the years, it's that keeping, what you're thinking under wraps leads to championships, as we saw with the Golden State Warriors. So I'm putting my trust in AK. I think he'll lead us to the promised land. And really quick, before we move on, I just want to say Wendell will not be missed. He was always undersized. Whenever he would get an offense, he was great at getting offensive rebounds, but he never knew what to do with the ball once he got them. He'd always either just put up a terrible shot or completely miss an outside shooter wide open on the outside. So him and Otto Porter, obviously with his contract, both of them not missed. And the 2 picks that we gave up, a first rounder this year and a first rounder in 2023. Hopefully by then we'll be, middle of the round, and those picks won't be worth as much as they may have been in the past few years. So I really thought that the Bulls got a lot out of this deal. And the Magic didn't do too bad either with, the picks they're getting, building around Jonathan Isaac. They're
Markelle Fultz. Yeah.
Markelle Fultz, they're under contract for a while. So
Cole Anthony.
Not bad for both teams.
Sucks to be a Magic fan, though. They're kind of like the Pistons. Yeah. It seems like they've been middle tier forever.
Yeah. One last thing to the Bulls, Thomas. I know you said that, like, you asked what they might need. I think you have to watch and see how this team meshes together before you really know what they need. Just wanted to add that. But
it seems like Markkanen's probably going to be gone after this year, so probably a power forward.
Yeah, and probably a point guard too, from what I was thinking, but we'll see. I don't know.
Oh, point guard definitely. No offense, Carter, but like Kobe White and Ryan Arcidiacono don't do it for me. They're underwhelming as point guards.
Archie, I think, is a good third string point guard, nothing more. And I think Kobe, in the next year or two, I still have faith that he's going to develop into something. And I am not out on Markkanen yet. This year, this is a Markkanen jersey. I'm in for the long run.
Carter wasted all of that money.
Kobe White definitely could progress into a good point guard.
Kobe White is so underrated. He can
he has so much talent, and some of the plays he can make, he just
doesn't get recognized because he's in Chicago.
Put it all together.
He'll also occasionally make one of the most ridiculous decisions on the court that I've ever seen when I watch Bulls games. So we'll see how he develops. That's going to be very dependent on how he develops. But Tyler,
yes. Big trade today.
Did I ask you what the trade was yet?
No.
Okay, Tyler. What was the trade that you were most intrigued by?
Well, I think it was probably the biggest trade of the day. Well, at least in my opinion. One of the biggest names. I hate you, Thomas. Anyways, the Magic sent Aaron Gordon to the Nuggets for in return they got Gary Harris, RJ Hampton, and a 2025 first round pick. I think there was someone else added in there. At least I saw, but I didn't catch it. But I mean, big haul for the Magic. Gary Harris is an okay player. He's been I mean, when he first came into the league, I feel like he had so much potential, and then injuries injuries just kind of ruined his career for now. RJ Hampton, really young with possibly a bright future. I mean, that first round pick could end up being good, but let's get on to the Nuggets side. I mean, big move for the Nuggets, just adding another piece in there, but with, Jamal Murray and Jokic. I don't know if it was the right move. It's a decent move, but also I think that Jeremy Grant was like a better piece for the Nuggets. I mean, that's kind of irrelevant because he was a free agent and he ended up signing with the Pistons, but we'll see. I don't know if it's really going to push them past anything other than maybe the 4 seed. I mean, and they're 5th in the West right now, 26-18. They've had an okay year. Jamal Murray has, he's been balling, and so is Jokic. Like easily, two of the best players in the league. But I don't know. Gordon he had injuries this year. He's averaging 14.6 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, 4.2 assists, shooting 43% and 37% from 3. He's only played 25 games though. I don't know. I mean, it could be. It really just depends on how Aaron Gordon fits in the system. I think if he can really mesh with Jamal Murray and Jokic, I think it could be a really, really good move. And if he can stay healthy, but if he doesn't fit in, then it's kind of a waste of trading away 2 of your younger guys in a first round pick. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. This certainly seems like they're trying to fill the gap that was left by Jeremy Grant when he left in free agency. Obviously, they had no chance in re-signing him. They offered him the exact same contract as the Pistons, and he wanted to leave to go be the man, But I've never been a huge fan of Aaron Gordon. I do understand that he's like having a career year in 3-point percentage, but also his entire career he's been a below average 3-point shooter. And so will he regress to the mean? Who knows? But what you're bringing him in for really is, while he's not the best defender in the world, you're going to bring him in to play defense on players, take the load off of Jokic when he's having to guard Embiid. Maybe Aaron Gordon can be on Embiid a couple possessions, throw him against Anthony Davis. He's not the greatest defender. He certainly has the tools to play good defense though. And so that's going to be a huge piece. And also his athleticism makes him defensively able to guard like shooting guards through centers, which will certainly be beneficial for the Nuggets. But that being said, he's also still not the greatest defender in the world. But we'll see. It's a move that they had to make, not necessarily the best move they could make or even the right move, but they needed to make a move because the team has been struggling so far this year. So it's something, that's for sure.
Yeah, the Nuggets definitely are missing some athleticism, and I think Gordon brings that to the table. And I'm just going to add, Aaron Gordon peaked in Uncle Drew, if anybody saw that movie.
I did see that
He was in that movie, wasn't he?
He was the hot shot in town.
Oh, yep. Yeah. That was a weird movie.
It was really weird, honestly.
Gotta do it for the love of the game, young blood.
Well, look who the star was. That tells you why it was weird.
Oh.
In the Uncle Drew verse, do you think that the Earth is flat?
Okay, let's just.
We could. That's for a whole nother episode.
That's when Looney Tunes 2 comes out, we'll touch on that later a little bit.
Looney Tunes 2,
Space Jam 2.
Space Jam 2.
Your favorite player in the whole
Jam.
Entire world is in
Bugs
that.
Bunny.
You don't even know that.
Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. Okay.
We were talking about the Nuggets, weren't we?
Yeah, we were talking about. Alex, did you want to add something? It seemed like you wanted to say something really quick.
I wanted to say that I hope the absence of who they give up again? Dozier? No, Hampton and Harris. I hope that that frees up some minutes for Bol because it's a crime that he's not out on the floor as much as he is. Well,
I don't think Hampton was playing much anyways.
No, I mean, and
last night.
Those two positions, like they don't apply to Bobo's position, which kind of stinks. But
Hey, Bobo
I think they're definitely.
handles.
I know. I think Bobo, like they're like the Nuggets are sitting on Bobo, and I don't think they really have to. The dude can stretch the floor. He can handle the ball. He's 7'2". He's like, I mean, he lacks in like strength, obviously, and probably athleticism, but
He gets blocks.
You guys remember in the bubble last year when the Nuggets ran out like the ultimate big man lineup with Jokic at the point, Jeremy Grant, Paul Millsap, like Mason Plumlee, and someone else, I don't know who. That was wild.
That's hype.
Love Mike Malone for that.
Jokic could definitely play point guard though. Probably like
he's a bit too flubby. I think he's he gets tired.
No, he's fine. He could run point easy.
It's got to stay conditioned.
Yeah, that's true.
But anyway, so Zach,
yes,
you've got this whole, I hear you have a trade you want to talk about.
I don't necessarily want to talk about it, but there are just some interesting things happening.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I do want to talk about it, but it's not like it was
the
like
lack of enthusiasm.
It's not like it was eating at me.
Yeah, you guys are forcing me to talk about an NBA trade, so I'm just going to choose this one and go with it.
The prospects are interesting, and it's sort of a two-parter, right? Interesting things brewing down in Miami. So they trade away Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, and 2022 first-round swap rights for as a pick for Victor Oladipo. So let's be honest, they didn't give up too much as far as the players. Like Kelly Olynyk is like Kelly Olynyk. He's done the same thing his whole career. Avery Bradley, 3-and-D, but he hasn't really been playing much this year. Not that I can recall anyway. And then, a potential your potential first-round pick in 2 years, or a year. For Victor Oladipo, who is a good scorer. And I think that's really what they're getting out of this trade. The Heat have always been good. Always is in like the past year and a half defensively. They're a good defensive team. And now that they got Victor Oladipo, I'm thinking that it's going to be an interesting situation down in Miami. And not only for that, but because of also the rumor that once LaMarcus Aldridge buys out of his contract to San Antonio, that he plans on signing with the Heat. So you put those two moves together, and I think that's a good day for Miami. They've been up and down all season. We sort of discussed how Tyler Hero was having some troubles, shooting, and so did Jimmy Butler also. So maybe bringing in Victor Oladipo sort of gives them an extra presence on the offensive end, so that while they're still playing this great defense, they can also have a guy that they can rely on to score points when it's needed. And when LaMarcus Aldridge comes, he'll be able to stretch the floor. Unlike Bam Adebayo, who can't stretch the floor, he'll be able to. So interesting things brewing. I'm excited to actually watch them going forward. A lot of people saw their run in the bubble as a fluke, and maybe they're able to do a little something in a more legitimate situation this year than last year.
Yeah, these moves definitely make sense for the present in terms of competing. But when you look at it, Oladipo's contract is expiring. Kendrick Nunn's contract is expiring. Goran Dragic's contract is expiring. Duncan Robinson's contract is expiring. They don't have a lot of cap room as is.
So it's very much listen, they want to win now, so let's make some moves to win that.
It's a win now move, yeah. But they want to get back to the finals.
And you also have to realize that Pat Riley's getting up there in years. He probably doesn't have another rebuild in him. Not to say he'll die before he can do that, but just saying he probably doesn't want to run the Heat for another 10 years and another rebuild. So you can really tell that maybe he's taking steps to really put his foot on the gas and try to win with the roster they currently have.
If LaMarcus really goes to the Heat, that's dangerous.
They're going to have a good team.
That's dangerous.
That's a team that can compete, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're a finals team right now, but I think they're missing one big guy, and LaMarcus Aldridge is that big guy.
Well, maybe Udonis Haslem sees the court for the first time this year.
Listen,
Please.
Haslem has been he feels like he's been playing since the 90s.
I feel like Udonis Haslem's 100 years old.
He looks 100 years old.
He's LeBron's age, but it feels like he's so much more ancient. So it's just funny.
Getting that paycheck.
Yeah, but my point more was after this year, if they don't win, they're going to be in trouble because they're not going to be able to afford to bring all those guys back, certainly. Especially if you're investing in Oladipo, you kind of have to re-sign him. So
let's also be clear that I'm not sure, and maybe one of you guys could tell me, but I'm not sure what the cap situation is supposed to look like next year for the NBA.
I think it's supposed to stagnate.
Just like the NFL.
Well, the NFL's went down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's going to shoot back up next year. So
well, that's because they got new TV deals, though. That's why the cap room is.
Yeah, but it was going
to open up next year.
Yeah, but that was planned. So we knew that was going to happen since the last ones were signed. So even if it did go down, it was always going to shoot back up. you also got to realize that they are in Miami. It's never going to be difficult for them to like bring guys in or like have guys want to play for that franchise.
That's true.
So I mean, I do believe that this is a win now move, but I don't believe that if they don't win it this year, that they then have to think, well, okay, now we just have to rebuild. I think they'll just have to retool and maybe think of it in a different way. But I don't necessarily think this is like a situation where it's like, oh, they're in trouble if they don't get it this year.
Well, the only thing is that they won't be able to bring back all the pieces that they have with this team that could,
especially with how important Duncan Robinson.
But you're right, Zach. Yes.
Those guys are too.
Zach, you're right. Like, it's not going to cause them to have to rebuild. They're just not going to have as many pieces as they would.
And you also have to think that, like, you got to realize that they're in Florida. There's no state income tax. Maybe some guys are willing to take less money to come back and play for them because maybe they like being there. It's in Miami. Like, there's a lot of things that, like, we can't just speak in guarantees just because, the old way of thinking sort of says, well, you're going to lose all these guys because of the cap situation. Listen, we've seen, and I think we've proven that, like, these front offices, man, they find money hidden in the couch cushions in their grandmother's basements. I mean, these guys are miracle workers with numbers. So I just think it's a little bit forward thinking to say, like, this is a one and done type deal and that they can't bring maybe not everybody, but a few of those big pieces back.
And just if anybody is wondering, next year's salary cap is about $3 million more than it was this year, and it's going to increase. Jump. And it's going to increase by about that amount over the next 3 seasons.
All right. That's crazy to think about with COVID happening and everything. That's going up instead of down.
I think they fixed the increase, didn't they, when they did the last collective bargaining agreement? Like, it was a fixed increase that had to happen.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's a lot of business stuff I don't really understand.
That's.
I'm just trying to. Yeah.
This year it's set at 109 million, and then next year it's 112, followed by 115.7, and then 119.2.
And I'm sure that it was. I mean, it was definitely a huge issue with like not having fans in stadiums, and then like apparently you lost like certain rights to broadcast last year. But I mean, the NBA is as popular as ever. I mean, I don't think that like, those issues would hamper it for very long anyway. You know what I mean? You still got your championship, Mickey Mouse ring or not. You still got a lot of cash cows in the league. I think the NBA is just fine. I don't think that $3 million is probably going to hurt them. Well, for teams at least.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse championship.
That's what they call it. I don't agree, but that's what they call it.
So next trade that I wanted to talk about was Evan Fournier to the Celtics. And this is very meh in terms of a trade.
Well, the Celtics are very meh, to be fair.
The Celtics really needed a big man or a power forward of some sort.
Instead, they got rid of a big man.
Instead, they got rid of Tice, which does open up room for Robert Williams, who has been really good this year. But when you bring in Evan Fournier, I feel like that just causes you to have lineup problems with Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown. They all play a very similar position of that shooting guard, small forward combo kind of thing. And so you're going to run into problems where both Smart and Fournier are both going to be expecting to start the game, and they're also both going to be expecting to close the game out. And so there might be chemistry issues there. But, I mean, as far as Fournier is concerned, he does bring you like 20 points. Obviously, he's not going to be scoring at nearly as much because now instead of being the second option in Orlando, he's possibly fifth option in Boston, depending on, how shoot happy Marcus Smart ends up being. But it's an interesting trade, certainly. I mean, they had to do something. The team's been not good.
To speak on that, I have a friend of mine, lifelong Celtics fan, and he was discussing this earlier, and I'll just read to you what he's saying. As a lifelong Celtics fan, this is what he's feeling. He says, that move is for a team that is already good, and you're just adding depth. What is Danny Ainge watching? So it seems that like fans at least are thinking like, listen, we're not good at all right now. Why are you going and adding depth when like our problem is we can't even win games as we're constructed? So I don't necessarily think it was a move that'll change much for them. Like, this is a team that, like, you look at them over the past 4 or 5 years, and it's like they've had it all at, like, several different points. They've had every sort of roster you can imagine over the past 5 years, but for some reason, Jason Tatum just hasn't taken the step to be able to get things done. I mean, you go from Kyrie Irving, downgrade to Kemba Walker, but you still had Gordon. I mean, these guys have had rosters, like legit contenders, and they just haven't been able to do anything with it. And him as a fan, and he's like, I don't know why is this happening? None of this makes any sense. Like, we're supposed to be good, but for some reason we're not.
Out of the 3 Magic top options that got dealt today, the Celtics ended up with the one that met their needs the least. I think if Aaron Gordon or Vucevic went to Boston instead, that would have been a great fit, and I would think that they got better. But getting another shooting guard, I'm just shaking my head.
And Evan Fournier is another expiring contract that they're going to have to pay in the offseason, and they've got Robert Williams to pay. They've got a lot of people to pay again. Salary, obviously, Zach and his whole, salary cap doesn't really matter, but it's still an issue.
Boston is not Miami. Let's make no mistakes about that situation. Those are 2 very different places.
Yeah,
rules are different.
Also, the basketball history in Boston runs pretty deep. Also, but
you gotta realize
really
players are different nowadays.
It's more of a matter of the luxury tax in Boston right now, because they have the bird rights to re-sign pretty much everyone. The problem is, does the owner want to dip into the luxury tax for a team that right now is not contending?
I mean, to be honest, and that's the problem with a lot of these old franchises, is that like, you see the Lakers and you see well, I know for the Lakers, I'm not even sure who the owner of the Celtics is, but a lot of these old teams have been sort of stayed in families for a long time, and they're not as rich as some of these the owners of newer teams. Like, the Buss family cannot compete with the owner of the Clippers, Steve Ballmer, I think, right? In terms of like ability to take a hit on the luxury tax. They're not 20, 40 billionaires. Like, they just happen to be a rich family a long time ago that was able to get a team. I mean, so as far as that stuff is concerned, I mean, you also got like Boston and Miami are different, and players aren't the same thing. A player can look at the Boston Celtics franchise and see like, wow, look, this team has 80 years of rich history, and they do not care because they don't want to be in Boston for a year. They want to be where they can go to clubs. And you know what you see when you go to clubs in Boston? You see snow and people in parkas. That's not where these young players want to be at.
Okay, you're disrespecting Boston. Boston's beautiful. Okay?
Boston's a nice city, but it's not Miami.
You're right.
That is the top criteria for NBA free agents, is what the club atmosphere is like.
No,
I mean, it seems like it might be for Lou Will.
I forgot
James Harden.
I was gonna say I forgot that all free agents are James Harden. Like,
I mean, but look at the teams that are like popular. It's big markets where there's things to do, and Boston is a nice city, but it's not New York, Miami, LA. It's not those places.
Anyways, okay, let's.
Am I wrong?
Let's not trash on cities anymore.
I would say Boston is a big market, but.
I mean, I say that players look at Boston and see the history there and say, you know what, I want to be a part of that winning mantra.
Everybody, it's not just basketball either, because everybody in Boston has won. Like, the Bruins have been winners, the Celtics have been winners, the Patriots have been winners.
All right, so
the Red Sox have been winners. Like, there's just a winning history in
let's take a look at the idea that players see Boston's rich history and they want to play for the team and they win. And then let's look over the last 5 years where you've lost Gordon Hayward and you've lost Kyrie Irving and you've lost Kemba Walker.
People leave. None
of these players are players that they signed, or like they're all players that were traded for and then decided to leave. So it's not true that players see their rich history and want to play for them, because those are 3 good players that saw their rich history, played for the organization. Were like, you know what? I don't want to be here.
Well, I'm not saying everybody loves Boston or everybody's gonna love Boston.
Kyrie Irving left Boston because he's a cancer.
He's a weirdo.
Yes.
Listen, but what I'm saying is that I don't think that the logic that players see their history and want to play for them applies. I don't think it does. And so I'm going to say that because I feel like it does not apply.
Thomas is having the best time.
Listen, LeBron James didn't go to the Lakers because of their rich history. He went to the Lakers.
Yes, he did.
He went to the Lakers. He went to the Lakers because he had a production company and he wanted to start having his businesses in LA go smoother.
Both of those are true. They're not mutually
exclusive.
There,
but you can't deny that, like, LeBron being a Laker is gonna boost his legacy even more, without a doubt. You can't
look at the all-time Lakers team. Like, there's so many all-time greats that have played for the Lakers.
Why
not go there? And
I appreciate the history. I think it's very interesting. But what I'm saying is, I don't think that's a consideration.
You don't think LeBron was like in his head? He was like, let me go to this really bad Lakers team, turn them into something special, and then add a title to the the Lakers legacy. You don't think that was running through his head the whole time?
I think that it was running through his head, but I also got to think that when he made the decision to go to LA, you compare the Clippers team at that time, you compare the Lakers team. The Lakers had a bunch of young talent that he could have done things with for the next few years if they developed nicely.
I just don't think LeBron did it as a business decision, which is
but here's the thing: is I think that LeBron, as a whole, he benefits more from being a Laker. But if it was strictly, because I'll say this, if it was strictly that he wanted free reign to build a team as he sees fit, then the Clippers would have been a better choice, right? Because they had because they can go out and spend money crazy, unlike the Lakers. Like I said, because Steve Ballmer can pay a higher luxury tax. And
Speaking of the Clippers, the Hawks and Clippers.
You guys are laughing, but these are facts.
Speaking of the Clippers, the Hawks and Clippers made a trade. I'm about to meet all three of you.
Okay, I apologize.
The Hawks and Clippers made a trade. The Hawks sent Rajon Rondo to the Clippers for Lou Williams.
Yeah, I talked about that earlier.
Well, we're
talking down to Miami.
I think both
talking about this trade now.
I think both sides benefit. Rondo gets in a system where, Rondo is built to be on winning teams. Like, I think that's where he functions best. He's solid when he's around other guys where he can pass to and create. He's a winning basketball player. And Lou Will gets to go home and go to strip clubs.
Yes.
And the Clippers definitely need a playmaker. They don't really have a true point guard. Patrick Beverly and Reggie Jackson, bless his heart, aren't playmakers.
No. Don't bless Reggie Jackson's heart. He is a bona fide scrub.
He has had injury problems. Leave
Stephen
him
A.
alone. I will take no slander.
All right,
I actually disagree. Go ahead, Zach. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. I was just going to talk about the trade. If you have something to say about a point, then go ahead.
I actually don't think it benefits the Clippers at all. I think they
Yeah, I was going to say the same exact thing. Go ahead.
Rondo just isn't really. I mean, he's got that winning experience. Obviously, he won the chip with the Lakers last season, but I just don't think that it's going to bring the Clippers over the hump. And in fact, if anything, it may make him worse without Lou Will. I don't know how Lou Will is doing this season, but it definitely benefits the Hawks at all costs for a team that's in that play-in spot. Has just revitalized itself after firing Lloyd Pierce. So I think this is a better trade for the Hawks. That again, and Lou Will also has that winning experience. I can't speak on how many championships he has, but he's definitely has some experience, and he's going to be a good locker room presence for such a young team in Atlanta, and will definitely pay off when they're in those play-in games. Maybe they won't even be in the play-in games. At this rate, they could be at that 5-6 spot.
Yeah, I think the same thing. I think that they've really pursued Rondo hard, and when they weren't able to get him in free agency, they saw this chance to get him through trade. I guess he was available, and they just really jumped on it. And I thought that Lou Will gave them a special ability to, even when their stars come off the court, he can come on and get guaranteed buckets. Like if you knew that Lou Will scores every night, it does not matter. He's a bucket getter, and I felt like it was interesting that even when Kawhi and Paul George came off the court, they could have him come in and that production wouldn't stop. They could still do things. Now you get a guy, yes, you have a better playmaker, point guard, but that's all he's really going to do for you. So now when your two stars come off the court, what is Rajon Rondo doing for you when they're not there?
Luke Kennard's been having a really nice season. And he can fill that Lou Will spot. What the Clippers really need is someone who can facilitate the ball. They have not had that all year. They really needed a point guard, like an actual point guard. And so having Rondo now gives them that piece. And Luke Kennard can step up into that Lou Will 6-man role, and because he's had a really, really good season.
Yeah, the only thing I say is that first, I'll just say this: I've never heard that name before in my life. All right,
Luke Kennard.
Yeah, I've never heard of Luke Kennard.
He was on the Pistons last year.
That's great.
He's a sniper. He's a sniper.
That does not give me any more reason to know who he is.
He's a sniper.
But what I'm saying is,
you'll know his name in a couple of years.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is that if it's between like Lou Williams and like Luke Kennard, and you're like, okay, now the lights are bright, you're having a great season playing in the 8th spot on the team. Can you do the same thing in the playoff as a 6th man? I mean, I'm just saying that's a lot to ask.
I mean, it's not like Lou will spend his entire career on playoff teams. He was on the Lakers, Rockets, and Clippers.
It's not like Lou Will's like young. He's not young at all. No. I might as well put Luke Kennard in that position now so he can because Lou Will is not going to last. He's only going to last a couple more years probably, right? Like, there's no way he can keep up with consistency in like the old age. Like, he's going to go eventually. And Luke Kennard, why not have him just fill in right away? Go ahead, Carter. I'm sorry.
Yeah, or no, I cut you off. I mean, the evidence is right here. Lou Williams is averaging 12 points a game, which is his least amount of points per game since 2013. And Luke Kennard in less minutes is averaging, 7.9 this year. But again, less minutes, he's shooting almost 50%. Lou Will's only shooting 42%
his shooting
from the
efficiency
field.
Is really good this year.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
so
Lou Will's only shooting 42% from the field. And yeah, I mean, he averaged 16 with the Pistons last year. So he obviously has proved he can score and he'll only get better from here.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously those point totals aren't like something where I'm going to be like, wow, but obviously when he steps up into a larger role, we'll see if it increases. And if it turns out that he fills that role perfectly, I have no problem admitting, okay, I was wrong on that one. I'm just saying, like, as someone who maybe doesn't watch Clippers basketball, and nor do I watch Pistons basketball, I just had never heard of him before. But maybe he turns out to be a stone cold killer, and then I got to be like, you guys were right. Great move by the Clippers.
Well, plus for the Clippers, like, they don't need Rondo to score. Like all they needed is his playmaking and his facilitating, and we know Rondo can do that. We know Rondo can play defense and he can dish the ball. He's great at getting assists, and he's a solid defender. So like that's really all they need at the point guard spot. They got Kawhi, they got Paul George, they got Luke Kennard off the bench. They got a lot of pieces that can score the rock. They just need someone to pass the ball to them.
I'm just curious about what happens now if what happens now if those two go off the floor and then Luke Combs or whatever his name is has to fill in. So that's all I'm saying. I just don't know if their bench is good enough.
On the Pistons, he showed that he can be a good scorer. He was like their second option last year. He's a justifying scorer.
Zach just called him Luke Combs.
I forgot his name.
Luke Kennard.
There's someone in here with a Luke Kennard jersey.
Is there?
That's me. Yeah.
Okay.
That's me.
So that's why I took it so serious when I said I'd never heard of the guy. I was like, you will in a few years. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Carter knows this. Remember, we went to that Pistons practice at the Breslin Center.
I'll never forget. That was awesome.
Luke pointed at me because I was wearing his jersey. He was like, I see you. And then he got traded, and I was sad.
No, I know it was really heartbreaking for a lot of true Pistons fans when Luke Kennard got traded. Like, that was pretty tough. Like, everybody kind of wanted to have him be a big piece of the system, but he was
one of the best draft picks we had in forever.
Yeah.
And I was sad when Bruce Brown left. Bruce Brown was sad when everyone
left. All right. Let's get this thing back on the track.
Okay. Sorry. Not a Pistons podcast. I forgot. Other trades that happened. I mean, there were some under the radar ones, like the 76ers brought in George Hill because they were kind of out on the whole Kyle Lowry thing. So they have a backup point guard now.
Let's talk about football or something.
I mean, if we want to move on to football, we can. But last thing I wanted to say was just the Pistons did make a trade. They traded DeLon Wright to the Kings.
Good trade.
They also got 2 second-round picks back for it, which is, for a team that's restoring, not rebuilding, as Troy Weaver likes to say, is nice pieces. And Corey Joseph next year, he only has about $2 million guaranteed on his contract, while DeLon Wright had $8 million. So if the Pistons just decided to waive him, that would be about $6 million in cap space that they would gain from that, which is pretty nice, especially for a team that's up against the cap a little bit, surprisingly, for a rebuilding team. But yeah.
All right. Yeah. Anyway.
So we have not forgotten about the NFL. The NFL is still a thing that exists in the spring. Most teams are starting to wrap up their free agency. They're starting to look forward to the draft. Based off of what we've seen so far, what teams have you been most interested by with their offseason so far? Alex, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I'm a homer, and since I wasn't able to get to talk about my Pistons, I'm going to take this time to talk about the Lions and their offseason moves. Obviously, we know that Brad Holmes is their new general manager. Suck it, Bob Quinn. Get out of town.
Facts.
So yeah, Brad Holmes has taken the reins, and of course, we all know what he started his tirade, if you will, way back in early February when trading for Jared Goff. That was like his first week on the job, and he's already trading away Matthew Stafford. That's when you know. And he got the return he did in Goff and all those first round picks. That's when you know you were in for a hopefully a good tenure with Holmes here in Detroit. And not to say we weren't expecting him to make any big splashy moves. Obviously, the Detroit Lions, all the teams in Detroit are rebuilding right now. They're waving the white flag. So they got it started.
Gotta love it here.
Yeah, it's good times here in Detroit. They got it started with Romeo Okwara re-signing into a 3-year, $39 million deal. Good contract. He deserves that money. $13 million a year is a pretty good number for him. And I love it because he said it himself. He wanted to stay here in Detroit. He was a great edge rusher, had 10 sacks for us last season. Really happy to bring him back. I was a little scared we were going to let him walk when we didn't give him the franchise tag, but knowing that he's under contract for another 3 years, it's good to know. And then we made some other low impact 1 year, like low risk signings. Jamal Williams comes over from the Packers on a 2-year deal. I have a Packers fan in my class that says Jamal Williams is really underrated. Especially, he just doesn't get a lot of looks because he plays behind Aaron Jones, and he's actually a good running back. So I'm excited to see what we can get out of him, especially with Adrian Peterson out of the picture now. And we also brought in Rashad Perryman, and then just some other pieces all here and there. And then yesterday, Brad Holmes realizes that we're out of cap space, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to restructure Jared Goff's massive contract and turn it into a signing bonus and free up $15 million in cap space, and makes 2 signings in a matter of like 2 hours in positions of need in linebacker and wide receiver. And we're also still talking to safeties and secondary pieces as we speak right now. So for a rebuilding team in Detroit, I really can't complain what they're signing so far.
Alex, you forgot a really deep and, it's a really sad loss for us. We lost Legatron.
Actually, I could care less. Really? Did you hear the rumors that he turned down $18 million a year at the end of at the beginning of this past season?
Who are we talking about?
From us?
Kenny Galladay.
Yes,
he turned down.
We were talking about Legatron. We're talking about Matt Prater.
Oh, Prater. Oh my God.
Legatron.
Okay, so when you said Legatron, I thought of Megatron, and then I associated that with what?
Legatron, Matt Prater. He's just the kicker.
Okay, now that sucks. That actually, I'm very.
I just want to. That made me sad.
Prater is on. He's on his last leg. No pun intended.
One thing I will say is that, listen. Oh, go ahead. Finish up.
No, I'm done.
Oh. Well, I was just gonna say, there's always people that give you certain vibes that things are gonna change. And when I saw the sort of the videos that were being put together about the Lions' new hires and that crazy head coach, that's my kind of guy. And I was like, wow, there's gonna be some bright things happening in the city of Detroit. And I think so far, listen, they've done pretty well. As far as a first year set of moves, they've done some pretty good things. I think you guys got a good thing building there. I think over the next few years, being a Lions fan might not be so bad.
A bright future on the rise, hopefully.
Wow,
I feel like for every Detroit team, they're starting to get on the right path. For the longest time, every single team in Detroit seemed like it was on a rudderless ship with no direction. Yeah. And now we're seeing the Red Wings are starting to get their rebuild started.
Great analogy, Thomas.
Thank you. Boats, they're cool.
Oh, did y'all hear about the boat that was stuck in the canal, the Suarez Canal or whatever it's called?
Yeah. It's blocking 10% of the world's trade.
That was Detroit sports, was that evergreen boat just stuck in the canal and they just couldn't get back out.
But yeah, it seems like every single team now has some direction that they're going towards, which is really nice to see.
All right.
Carter.
That's coming up next week on the podcast.
Carter.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, there's another Chicago team that's getting me a little antsy for the wrong reasons.
QB1.
Before we even get into the whole QB1 thing, cutting Kyle Fuller, adding Trufant. When we cut Kyle Fuller, that definitely hurt a little bit. it prompted me to start looking at the Bears depth chart, and I'm just getting depressed over here. I mean, there was talk of us getting Russell Wilson and potentially Kenny Galladay at the same time, and we were all getting our hopes up. Miss on both of those, and then we release, Kyle Fuller just a few days later, and in the process we add Andy Dalton, who on the last podcast I already ranted about. But last night, the Bears Twitter account, for those who might have seen it, they posted a Photoshop pic of Andy Dalton, throwing a football with just the caption QB1, and it angered a lot of Chicago Bears fans, and me included. It really is pointing us in the wrong direction. I think just all these moves are not looking too good for the Bears, and yeah, just putting that out on social media, not reading the room, just. I don't think they understand the disappointment that we're feeling. And I again will state, I believe that Ryan Pace is secretly a Packers fan that took this job to torture Bears fans for a decade. So I'm sticking with that. And
for all we know, Nick Foles keeps, he steals the starting job away from Andy Dalton,
I'm hoping, I'm praying that the Bears prove me wrong here, but I
imagine Andy Dalton has like a career year. He just he just takes it as a chip on his shoulder. He just goes crazy.
He was fooling everyone yards. The whole time. He's like, nah, guys, I was just messing around.
Like 2 weeks ago, Bears fans thought we were going to have Russell Wilson throwing to Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, and Kenny Galladay as a potential move.
Oh, that's such a That's
now
we're stuck
with Anthony Miller, Andy Dalton, and Nick Foles, and no Kyle Fuller. So
maybe Nick Foles can line up at tight end.
We got Cole Kmet and Jimmy Graham, but we actually have 4 tight ends on the roster. I don't even recognize the last 2 names, but yeah, Jimmy Graham is currently our second string tight end, and we are paying him way too much for him to just, be
Yeah, Bears are screwed.
I will say,
we're so screwed. At least we got the Bulls now. At least we got the Bulls.
Listen, Deshaun Watson there's still a chance. There's still a chance.
Deshaun Watson might be out of the league in a few days for all
things aren't looking too good for Deshaun Watson right now.
Listen, Deshaun Watson
numbers in the 20s.
Deshaun Watson is not Myers Leonard. He'll be just fine. He's not.
By the way, Myers Leonard just got cut by the Thunder just a few minutes ago.
Yeah, no. Listen,
it was coming.
Yeah. Deshaun Watson, he'll be all right. I have a sneaking suspicion.
I mean, with the reputation the NFL has, he'll probably be okay.
It's not only that, but these charges are civil charges. If they were criminal charges, it's a completely different ball game. But because they're civil, I think that he's going to pay a whole lot of money, and I think that he'll be just fine. He's as harsh as it is to hear. He is too good for something like this to not have him on a team playing quarterback. It's just not going to happen.
Maybe it's part of his plan that he's hoping that all these women come out and accuse him of this, that the Texans are forced to drop him, and then he can just go wherever he wants.
Yeah, the timing of these allegations was very peculiar.
It's very suspicious at the very least, especially with the history that will.
I'm not doubting it all. I'm just saying that the time that all these are coming out it's an interesting time in Deshaun's career.
We'll see what happens with that.
Let's 30 for 30.
Get too deep into that.
Listen,
though, please.
30 for 30.
We're not going to get too deep into that, though. Tyler, you have.
What if I told you?
Tyler, to talk about.
Yes, I do.
Tell us about how you love Joe Flacco on the Eagles.
No, bum. No. Oh my God, I hate you, Thomas. Anyways, talking about the Patriots. I think we all know this. I think everybody, if you kept up with free agency in the NFL, you've known that the Patriots are dishing it out. They're getting, Cam Newton, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Kyle Van Noy, Matthew Judon, James White, Nelson Aguilar.
Big dollars.
They're adding pieces to every part of their team, the offensive line, the defensive line, their secondary, their linebacking core, their receiving core. They added James White back for their running back core. And then they got Cam Newton. Obviously, I've mentioned this before. We'll see what Cam can do with all these new pieces and the new upgraded offensive line. They got Trent Brown back. I don't know. Keep an eye out for the Patriots, and it'll be nice to see how they mesh at the beginning of the year. And I think that'll really be a true sign of, how this year turns out for the Patriots. But I mean, if they have OTAs and everything like it should be planned, unlike last year, we could see a special team in New England. But I mean, that comes down to how well Cam plays, how well this team really fits together. So we'll see. I just wanted to add on that, but
someone pissed off Bill Belichick and said about all the talk about how he can't win without Brady, and he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna take a loan out of my own bank.
Here's all my money.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a personal loan to sign some players.
Here's all my money I've ever earned ever. Here you guys go.
Yeah. Salary cap doesn't apply to me.
One thing I'll say is that it seemed like over the past year, and because of Brady's win in the Super Bowl with Tampa, there was a huge misconception that like Bill Belichick wasn't Bill Belichick, like he wasn't still the greatest coach to ever coach a team in any sport.
Not good though.
But what I'm saying is that Bill Belichick takes that team, which was filled with cans from top to bottom. I'm sorry to say this, Cam Newton last year included, terrible. They were terrible. And
you're
he
right.
comes,
no, you're
and,
right.
And Sal, this dude is working with nothing, still has like a pretty good record. Most like that could have been like an 0-16 team with like terrible coaching. Like it was
with bad coaching.
They might win a few games. They might win a few games, but what he has done is showing like, hey, listen, I still know how to play this game. Like this is not a situation where like, I am not a good like he is. I'm very impressed with what they've done. They got some guys that had left before come back in Kyle Van Noy, who I think that the Dolphins are crazy for ever letting go in the first place. And then they fill a lot of positions. So, I mean, listen, Bill Belichick is still Bill Belichick, and we'll see what they do in the draft. But, like, wow, I was very impressed with just the whole thing. Because they came out guns blazing, which I like to see.
It'll be interesting for sure.
I still think this team is going to go the same way Cam Newton goes. If he plays well, they'll be fine. They'll probably be a wild card team. If he does not play well, I don't even think Brian Hoyer is on the roster anymore. But Brian Hoyer is not taking you to the playoffs. So
it would be Jarrett Stidham that would replace Cam Newton most likely, unless they drafted a quarterback.
As a Bears fan, I can attest Brian Hoyer will not take you to the playoffs.
Unless you're the Browns. He almost got the Browns there. That was a really good year for him.
I hate to bring it up, but Bill Belly spends a 7th round pick to Houston for Deshaun Watson.
Imagine.
Just steal the century. All right. Okay. I'm done.
No, well, if we're done talking about the Patriots, Zach, I think you have a little bit.
Zach,
is it my turn?
Our Steelers fan Zach here has quite the long rant for us here.
I've been watching football now for probably 14, 15, 16 years, somewhere in that range. And I've never expected much from the Steelers in free agency. We've never been a big signer. It's never been our game plan. We're a built through the draft kind of squad. So you get used to that. What I'm not used to is losing half my team. We had like the most unrestricted free agents in the league, and a lot of them were some solid players, and we lost. Okay, let's just go through it. Because I'll
have Juju.
Let's just break it down.
Juju's back.
Happy places. Juju's
and
back.
Big Ben.
Let's just break it down.
Oh,
okay.
Big Ben's a minus for the team.
I'm going to list off. I'm going to list off pretty much our top unrestricted free agents, and we'll talk about who they lost. Bud Dupree, Avery Williamson, Alejandro Villanueva, Matthew Filer, Mike Hilton, Tyson Alualu, Zach Banner, Cassius March, Juju Smith-Schuster, Sean Davis, Jordan Berry, and there's like 10 more people on that list. But those are the ones.
Juju's back.
Wait, Juju's back. Yeah.
No, those were just our unrestricted free agents going into. Okay.
And so who came back?
Juju Smith-Schuster
and Cassius Marsh. Cassius
Marsh and Zach Banner, technically.
You guys lost so many pieces.
So no, listen, a lot of those less known guys, they did come back, but as far as like Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, Tyson Alualu, and we also cut Steven Nelson. So you're looking at you're looking at 3 or 4 defensive starters on our team, and you have to look at it like this. Listen, I know that we're cap strapped, this, that, and the third, but when you decide to bring back Ben Roethlisberger, which
was a mistake,
who said, I do not care how much money I make this year, and somehow you only get him to cut like $10 million from his salary
clearly he lied.
Is absolutely ridiculous. Let me just say that if it was between finding a different quarterback and keeping the defense, the only thing that kept us alive in any sort of situation last season, after Ben's elbow gave out to him and he just turned into whatever
after
that
week
was.
10.
after week 10 exactly, I would have much rather had Bud Dupree, Mike Hilton, and Steven Nelson still on my team than I would have Ben Roethlisberger, who's a complete. And I love Ben, and I still thought we should have brought him back. He should have taken less money. I want Ben making $1 million a year, if that, because like his play at the end of the season is worth about that much. Instead, we lost a great rusher. We lost Tyson Alualu, who, despite being older, he was older. I think he's like 34, 35, had a fantastic year for us last year. And then we lose 2 corners, 2 of our top 4 corners, which actually 2 of our top 3. And Steven Nelson, who we cut because apparently there was a hostage situation. He wanted more money. Who knows? I wasn't in the meetings. And Mike Hilton may have been one of the most underrated corners in the entire league for his ability not only to cover the slot, but his ability to tackle and his ability to blitz for us. I mean, he did everything. And you're like, well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to bring back Juju for a 1-year deal so he can get paid 4 times as much next year on another team and just completely forget about the defense that's carried us for the past 2 seasons. I'm not happy because this has never been what we've done. We have never just let people go. We've always kept the guys that perform for us. And the fact that we're getting rid of the guys who have performed for us since their rookie deals, it's and I understand the cap situation, but there's got to be something you can do. Why are you signing? They just gave Cameron Hayward a brand new contract worth $40 million earlier in the season or something like that. Or maybe it was.
He already restructured it too. That's funny.
Yeah, and he restructured. So I got to wonder, where is all this money? Because Minka's on his rookie deal. Juju is on his rookie deal. All of our receivers are on their rookie deals. So where exactly is all this cap space being spent?
Ben Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger, who apparently he makes like he's in the 20s and how much he makes now compared to other quarterbacks.
Is TJ Watt still on his rookie deal?
Yes, TJ Watt is still on his rookie deal. All these players, all these guys are still on rookie deals.
Oh my God.
So where in God's name is this cap? Stephon Tuitt has eaten it all? Stephon Tuitt?
And Hayward's getting paid.
Yeah, Cam Hayward makes big money.
It's in the cloud. It's in the cloud. They can't get it. It's
Cam Hayward.
Joe Hayden's got a big contract.
Joe Hayden also, but Cam Hayward has taken sacrifices before, and he's a culture builder. So he's earned his money.
Don't forget about Chris Boswell.
The Wizard of Oz. Let me tell you, I love the guy, but come on now. The point being is, where is his cap being spent? Now we don't have a running back either. We lost James Conner. Well, James Conner hasn't been signed by anybody, but he sucks anyway, so he probably won't be. But I'm like, where?
James Conner was a free agent?
Yeah, he is. Yes. He still is.
He was on his rookie deal.
That's crazy.
What?
So listen, all these guys are on their rookie deals. You can look at, okay, we're paying Ben Roethlisberger, who now takes less. We're paying Stephon Tuitt and Cameron Hayward. So then I'm looking at the rest of the roster and Joe Hayden. That's 4 players. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, everyone else is on rookie deals. Everyone else. So what's gonna happen next year when I think Minka's due to get paid, TJ's due to get paid? It's not a good day this was a particularly harsh offseason for a Steelers fan who, knowing that Ben Roethlisberger needs a defense and we lost so many defensive cornerstones, and it's going to be tough to replace them if it's even possible to replace them, and we don't have an offensive line. Tom likes to argue that we have a good offensive line. I don't think. Okay. I apologize.
Think the offensive line is okay. I don't think it's the worst part of your team.
Anyway, I'm sorry for anyone who may still be watching about this 10-minute rant about the Steelers, but I'm beat up and I feel used and abused. It's a tough day.
I have a question. Week. Do you guys have a lot of draft picks or no? Is the draft
I think a lot of them went out. Well, we were missing some because of the Minka trade. Our 2nd round pick, I think, is gone because of the Minka trade, isn't it?
Oh. So it's even worse than, like, you guys can't even make a splash in the draft. Like, you guys are just kind of...
I'm not going to lie. If by some miracle of God, Mac Jones falls to wherever we're picking, I think it's probably 24, somewhere in that range, I would snatch that young man right up and play him instead of Ben Roethlisberger.
Dwayne Haskins.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about... I didn't even mention that.
Dwayne Haskins. Buckle up.
The guy, listen, Ben, he's getting a little slow. His arm ain't what it used to be. We're going to bring in a young kid who's slower than Ben and has a weak arm. That sounds like a plan.
And can't control his ego also.
Hey, well, if any team with has a certain culture like the Steelers do, if any team was going to be able to get him into shape.
Are we talking about our ability to control divas?
Quarterbacks.
Chase Claypool just kicked a guy in the face
There's
2
a
days
difference.
ago.
There's a difference between a kid that like needs some guidance and a diva like a wide receiver.
And you do realize that Ben Roethlisberger is probably behind the scenes the biggest diva.
Oh no, he is. Have you heard his interviews where he just trash talks his own receivers because they don't do something?
Yeah, even though Roethlisberger took a pay cut, he still had a $15 million signing bonus.
But the Steelers also had like the most drops in like the league this year too. So
that was Eric Ebron's fault. I blame him.
Yeah, he has. I hate Eric Ebron, and I always hate him. He's a scumbag who likes to talk shit about Detroit, and it makes me very upset. So I will, if you guys want to, I think we could devote a whole podcast to just destroying Eric Ebron.
We could, yeah.
I'm not.
Yeah, I don't think I want to do that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So to wrap this whole thing up. I don't like you, Kevin Colbert, or Colbert, whatever, however you say your last name, and I'm looking at you. You keep signing these 1-year contracts and fucking my team up. I need you to go, you old bastard.
Looking right into the camera. Look at that.
Yeah, you old bastard. I need you to go. It's time. Bye-bye, Kevin.
I was going to talk about the Cardinals, but I feel like we should end it there. I mean, if anyone's...
Cardinals are fantastic. Whoever runs that team, you've done a great job. You should be praised. That's all I'll say about that.
If anyone's heard
with the Cardinals,
Thomas, just quick fire on the Cardinals.
Quick fire Cardinals. You know, they got JJ Watt, AJ Green. You know, Matt Prater,
Matt Prater.
They traded
Malcolm Butler.
They traded for that center. They traded from that really good center. They traded from that.
Oh yeah, Rodney Hudson from the Raiders.
Yep.
Listen,
they're going all out.
A few weeks ago, when Thomas and I did a one-on-one podcast. What did we talk about for the Cardinals? We said if they can get one more receiver and fill that O line, and literally they're the exact moves that they made. The Cardinals are contenders. I said that if they did something with that O line and got one more weapon, they'd be contenders, and I think they are now.
Plus, they replaced. Well, I wouldn't say replaced like he's the same talent. They filled in the cornerback spot where they lost with Patrick Peterson too.
And they still have Byron Murphy. They still have Byron Murphy.
They lost Kenyon Drake to the Raiders. I don't know.
Running back's the most replaceable position.
Kyler Murray is going to be an MVP candidate next year.
Yeah, Kyler Murray is basically a running back.
If Kyler Murray makes the next step as a quarterback next year, the Cardinals are probably going to be.
So listen, like I said, all the Cardinals have to do, if they can get one, and this is we've talked about this, a deep draft for offensive linemen. If they can get one good, like great offensive lineman in this draft, they are in great shape. Like if they can get like a Tristan Wirfs type guy, sort of impact. I mean, it'll be tough, but this is a deep draft for offensive line. So I'm saying it's possible. If they can get one of those guys who can make an impact like that, this team is going to compete.
For sure.
All right. Before we end this, I do have one last question for each of you. Who will have a greater impact on the new team they have signed with? Ryan Fitzmagic on the Washington football team, or Joe Flacco, the new backup quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles?
I think
Fitzmagic all the way.
Yeah,
Fitzmagic. I think that's an obvious pick. I think the obvious pick is Fitzmagic.
I just needed my ego stroked there.
Two Hall of Famers are going to bring a lot to their respective teams.
Joe Flacco is the Udonis Haslam of the NFL now.
Oh my God, I hate that guy.
Listen, I don't like him any more than you do. How do you think I feel about him?
He was the starting quarterback of a championship team.
Yeah, that doesn't count. That was Ray Lewis.
He has the best Pizza Hut commercial.
I don't even say that. I have not even seen it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you all for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you've made it this far in the video.
If you watch this
probably only made it.
If you made it through Zach's tirade.
if you watch this whole video, then you're a real one.
Please let us know if you did.
And I apologize.
Hey, drop a comment and tell us if you listened to the whole thing.
Let us know what you want to hear about. Let us know what you want to hear more about. If you want some more games like we played last week, go ahead and drop an idea in the comment section if you got one. Thank you, everyone. Adios.
Peace, and I apologize.